Hideo Kojima scans feet, like a lot of feet, actress feet specifically. He's been caught doing it multiple times. There's video evidence, there are Easter eggs about it in his games, and the internet has collectively decided this makes him some kind of degenerate who uses his auteur status to indulge his perversions. Let me paint you a picture. Stefanie Joosten, the actress who played Quiet in Metal Gear Solid 5, is streaming the game years after release. She encounters a scene where her character is lying on a bed,
running around at speed like that.
And she realizes
I actually remember
that those are her actual feet.
They asked to scan my, like underneath my feet for a reference.
LMAO.
Why am I talking about feet?
Every Instagram post he makes now gets flooded with comments about foot scanning. There's a whole Know Your Meme page dedicated to it. The internet has decided this man is a foot freak and we've caught him red-handed. But nobody wants to ask the obvious question. Who the fuck cares? Gaming culture has this bizarre relationship with sexuality and the human body. We'll accept hyper-violent decapitations. We'll spend hours shooting people in the face. We'll play games where you literally rip someone's spine out through their throat. But a game director scans an actress's feet and suddenly everyone's clutching their pearls like we just discovered snuff films in his basement. The same people making Kojima feet memes will turn around and defend Dead or Alive's breast physics as artistic choice. They'll argue that Bayonetta's sexualization is empowering, actually, because she's in control of it. But Kojima pays attention to feet, the least sexual part of the body, short of maybe elbows, and he's labeled a pervert. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. What really happened is this. The internet found something they could turn into a meme without any real risk. Making fun of Kojima for feet is safe. It's quirky. It's not actually calling out anything problematic because feet aren't controversial. So everyone can participate in the joke without having to think too hard about their own consumption of way more explicitly sexual content in games. You want to know what's actually weird? Death Stranding has a mechanic where you can watch Norman Reedus piss and the color of his urine changes based on hydration levels. The game tracks whether you're drinking enough water by showing you increasingly dark piss. That's fucking bizarre. That's the kind of detail that makes you question someone's sanity. But nobody memes about that because piss isn't sexy. Feet have been culturally coded as a fetish thing, so that's where everyone focuses. It's lazy, it's boring, and it completely misses what makes Kojima interesting. Kojima doesn't have a foot fetish. He has autism, probably. I'm not diagnosing the man, I'm not a doctor, and I've never met him. But Kojima's approach to game design reads like someone who's neurodivergent as hell and hyperfixates on systems and details that neurotypical people wouldn't even think about. This is a director who made a game where you manage package weight distribution across your character's body, where you have to manually balance your load or you'll tip over, where terrain type affects stamina drain and boot degradation rates, where you can build roads collaboratively with other players across a server to make travel easier, where you can set up zipline networks and designate package delivery routes. Death Stranding is basically, what if UPS was a hardcore survival game with ghosts? It's the kind of idea that only makes sense to someone whose brain works differently from the average person. And thank God for that, because the average person makes derivative slop. Feet are part of that obsessive system building. You walk everywhere in Death Stranding. Your feet are your primary interface with the world. So Kojima made boots degrade, made terrain matter, made you feel every step. When your boots wear out and Sam goes barefoot over rough terrain, you see the damage, blood, frostbite, everything rendered in obsessive detail. That's not a fetish. That's someone who looked at walking, literally the most basic video game mechanic, and said, but what if we made it real? It's the same impulse that made him program beard growth and bladder mechanics and package degradation from Timefall Rain. Normal game developers would have said, that's too much work for something players won't notice. Kojima said, fuck you, I'll make them notice. Let's address the elephant in the room, or rather, the nearly naked sniper. Quiet, The character Stefanie Joosten played wears a bikini top and torn fishnets because, according to the game's lore, she breathes through her skin due to parasite infection. It's possibly the most transparently bullshit excuse for a sexy character design in gaming history. Even Joosten herself diplomatically said the outfit wasn't practical at all in interviews. That's the actual controversy. That's what people should have been mad about. The fact that Kojima created another underdressed female character and slapped some pseudo-scientific explanation on it like that makes it fine. The way women are designed in his games is a legitimate criticism worth having. But nobody wants to have that conversation because it's complicated and might require examining their own media consumption. Instead, everyone laser focuses on LOL, he scanned her feet, because that's easy. That's a joke. That's not actually asking anything difficult of anyone. You want to call Kojima out for something? Call him out for designing Quiet in a bikini and then telling people they'd be ashamed of their words and deeds once they understood the deep lore justification. That's some patronizing bullshit that deserves criticism. The feet, that's just thoroughness. When you're doing full body performance capture and you're Kojima level obsessive about detail, of course you scan everything. The feet aren't the problem. The outfit choice was the problem. But everyone got distracted by the meme instead of the actual issue. Quentin Tarantino has put feet in basically every movie he's ever made.
Wiggle your big toe. Wiggle your big toe.
It's so well documented, there are YouTube compilations. The man clearly has a thing for women's feet, and he's not subtle about it. And you know what the cultural consensus is? LOL, that's just a Tarantino thing. Nobody's calling for him to stop making movies. Nobody's suggesting he's abusing his position as a director. It's just accepted as one of his quirks alongside the excessive violence and decades-spanning revenge plots and Samuel L. Jackson saying the N-word. But Kojima does the same thing, and suddenly it's evidence of perversion. The only difference is that Tarantino makes movies, and movies are real art, while Kojima makes games, and games are still fighting for legitimacy. So we hold them to different standards. We expect game developers to be more, pure, professional, less openly human. Fuck that. Artists are weird. They have to be weird to make interesting things. If you want completely normal, well-adjusted people making your entertainment, you're going to get focus-tested corporate slop designed by committee to offend nobody and inspire nothing. Kojima is weird about feet. Tarantino is weird about feet. David Lynch is weird about red curtains and backwards talking dwarfs. Every auteur has their thing. Either accept that artists are going to put their obsessions into their work, or admit you don't actually want art, you want products. Gaming still has this desperate need to be taken seriously. We want games to be respected as art, to be analyzed in universities, to be considered important cultural objects, but we're terrified of anything that might make games look bad to outsiders. So when Kojima, one of gaming's most famous auteurs, someone who actually did get games taken seriously, starts getting memed for scanning feet, there's this collective panic. No, wait, we were supposed to be legitimate. You're making us look bad. The feet thing is embarrassing in the way that having an eccentric uncle is embarrassing. You want to present this polished version of yourself to the world, and then your weird uncle shows up talking too loud about his niche interests, and you're like, please God, not in front of the company. But that embarrassment is your problem, not Kojima's. He's making the games he wants to make with the level of detail he wants to include. If that includes meticulously scanning every part of his actors, feet included, because he wants photorealistic characters, that's his artistic choice. The fact that everyone's so uncomfortable with it reveals our own hang-ups about bodies and sexuality and what's appropriate for games. We've collectively decided that feet are weird, but gratuitous violence is fine. That sex is controversial, but murder is entertainment. That caring about realistic foot models is perverted, but designing women with physically impossible body proportions is just industry standard. Maybe the problem isn't Kojima, maybe the problem is us. You want to talk about weird Kojima shit? Let's talk about weird Kojima shit. In Metal Gear Solid 3, there's a boss fight where you can win by saving your game and waiting a real-world week for the guy to die of old age.
Major, I found the end. He's dead.
What the hell happened?
Maybe it was from old age.
There's a character whose powers include reading your memory card and commenting on other games you've played. You can make a guard puke by spinning him around in first-person mode. In Death Stranding, there's a prepper who's obsessed with your feces and wants you to bring him samples. You can throw your own shit at enemies. There's a character named Die Hardman. Your baby gives you thumbs up from a jar on your chest. Metal Gear Solid 2 was a meta-commentary on sequels and player expectations and information control that nobody understood when it came out, and people are still writing academic papers about. The man put product placement for Monster Energy and AMC's The Walking Dead into Death Stranding, and somehow made it work thematically with the game's message about connection and consumption. Feet are the least interesting thing about what Kojima does. They're a footnote, pun intended, in a career built on being aggressively weird and uncompromising. But everyone fixates on the feet because they're an easy joke that doesn't require actually engaging with the work. Kojima probably does find feet aesthetically interesting. He probably scans them with the same attention he scans faces because he's building digital humans, and humans have feet. He might even have a mild foot thing, and if he does, so fucking what? We've built this culture where we demand authenticity from artists while simultaneously demanding they hide anything about themselves that makes us uncomfortable. We want raw, honest, personal art that reveals the creator's soul, but only the parts of their soul we find acceptable. That's not how art works. That's not how people work. You don't get to cherry pick which parts of someone's personality and obsessions they're allowed to put in their work. Either you engage with artists as complete humans with all their weird interests and quirks, or you get sanitized corporate products designed to offend nobody. Kojima makes games where you can see every inch of detail because he cares about every inch of detail, including feet. If you think that makes him a pervert, the problem is your brain, not his games. Subscribe if you want more takes that'll get me called a Kojima simp in the comments. Drop your thoughts below, especially if you disagree. Those are the fun ones. Share this with someone who needs to log off and stop being weird about feet. Gaming needs more directors willing to be obsessive weirdos who care about things nobody else thinks about. We need people who'll scan actresses' feet because they're trying to build the most realistic digital humans possible, even when everyone's going to make fun of them for it. The alternative is every game looking and feeling exactly the same because everyone's too scared to be weird, and I'd rather have Kojima's brand of strange obsessive detail than another generic AAA game designed by algorithm. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go rewatch all of Death Stranding's cutscenes and think about why a game about delivering packages made me cry more than any other game in the past decade. It wasn't the feet, by the way, but I'm sure Kojima made sure they looked perfect anyway.